Hi traders, in today's video I am going to talk about the 2008 economic crisis, because in my opinion that crisis was a huge eye-opener for a lot of people about how all the financial systems are working and how easy it is to corrupt the system and to use it to your advantage and then run with the money. And it is, in simple terms. And in my opinion, still a lot of people don't know enough of that crisis, how it happened, and the technical elements of that crisis. And because of this, humanity always repeats history and always are doing the same mistakes over and over. They don't really know anything about the technical side of these events, and so in this video I will go into detail about this crisis situation and how you can predict the future based on this crash of the markets. Let's start.
The 2008 financial crisis was one of the worst economic downturns in recent history, and it had far-reaching consequences that affected millions of people worldwide. To understand what caused the crisis and how to potentially predict and prevent future crises, it's important to delve into the complex factors that contributed to it. One of the primary causes of the crisis was the widespread use of subprime mortgages. These mortgages were offered to people with poor credit histories and often had low introductory rates that would increase after a few years. This made it difficult for many borrowers to repay their loans, and as a result, many homeowners began defaulting on their mortgages. To make matters worse, many of these subprime mortgages were bundled together into complex financial instruments called collateralized debt obligations and sold to investors. These CDOs were given high credit ratings by rating agencies, which made them appear less risky than they actually were. This created a false sense of security among investors, who believed that they were investing in low-risk assets. Another contributing factor was the creation and use of other complex financial instruments, such as credit default swaps. These swaps were essentially bets on whether borrowers would default on their loans, and they were used extensively by financial institutions and investors to hedge against risk. However, the complexity of these instruments made it difficult for investors to fully understand the risks they were taking on. Lax regulation of financial institutions also played a role in the crisis. In the years leading up to the crisis, there was a lack of oversight and regulation of financial institutions, which allowed them to take on excessive risk and engage in questionable practices. For example, many financial institutions engaged in high levels of leverage, which allowed them to make large profits in good times but also made them more vulnerable to financial shocks. Finally, the globalization of financial markets meant that the crisis quickly spread from the United States to other countries around the world. This was due in part to the interconnectedness of financial markets, which meant that a crisis in one part of the world could quickly spread to other parts of the world. To potentially predict and prevent future financial crises, there are several strategies that can be considered. One of the most important is strengthening regulations and oversight of financial institutions. This can help prevent excessive risk-taking and promote transparency in financial markets, making it easier for investors to understand the risks they are taking on. Addressing income inequality is also important, as reducing income inequality can help prevent the buildup of debt among lower-income individuals and reduce the likelihood of default. This can be achieved through policies such as progressive taxation and a living wage. Providing education and financial literacy programs to individuals can help them make better financial decisions and avoid taking on excessive debt. This can be particularly important for individuals who are considering taking on mortgages or other forms of debt. Encouraging international cooperation and coordination can also help prevent financial crises from spreading globally. This can involve measures such as increased transparency in financial markets, the sharing of information and best practices, and the establishment of global financial standards. In summary, predicting and preventing future financial crises requires a multifaceted approach that addresses the underlying factors that contribute to economic instability. These factors include excessive risk-taking by financial institutions, the use of complex financial instruments, and insufficient oversight and regulation of financial markets. By taking steps to address these factors, it may be possible to reduce the likelihood and severity of future financial crises.
I hope you enjoyed this video and it was an eye-opener for you. if you didn't know all the details about this crisis and the technical elements. And if you want to see more of these kinds of videos, just let me know in the comment section. Ciao.